Dallas police accused of smearing man killed by cop in his own apartment. We covered this story pretty extensively last week. It was something that Paul got pretty outraged about because it seemed like the story that was being told to us was an obvious and blatant fabrication.
A total fabrication. It just sounds like a hand caught in the cookie jar story from a fucking 4-year-old.
Do you want to quickly recap that story for those of
As I remember it from last week, this chick claims that she accidentally went to the wrong floor of her apartment building and thought that this apartment was hers, and that the door was already ajar, and that she went in there and shot this guy.
It was really dark, though.
Yeah, it was really dark, and she shot this guy. Now, thinking that he was an intruder, right? And she's still in uniform. She's still in her police uniform. She used her police-issue revolver to kill the dude. The story makes absolutely no sense. I've lived in apartments my whole fucking life. You know which apartment is yours. You don't go wandering into somebody else's apartment.
The closest I've ever heard about that is someone drunk. Going into the wrong apartment.
But she was coming home from work,
yeah,
so
she
that
wasn't
can't
drunk.
be the case.
I've only heard about drunk people being so stupid that they go into the wrong apartment.
Elevation also changes when you're drunk, dude.
Also, there's apparently some witnesses that have said that they heard somebody's female voice pounding on a door and saying, "Let me in, let me in." So I think it's pretty
contradicting the idea that the door was open. And also, the doors of that apartment automatically close unless propped
Well, let me
open.
ask you a question about this story, and this is like something that the police should really explain. So, how'd she get to that floor? Did she take an elevator?
Presumably.
Or stairs.
Stairs. So did she take an extra flight of stairs accidentally?
So, did she accidentally take an extra flight of stairs, or did she push?
She accidentally pushed the wrong button on an elevator.
Yeah.
I don't think either one is the case.
I mean, but if she did that, wouldn't you realize, like, hey, this is the third floor, because it tells you this is third floor, and I live on the second floor.
So, an attorney for the family of a man shot dead by a police officer in the man's own apartment said the police affidavit shows investigators immediately sought evidence to discredit the victim.
What a shock.
They immediately began looking to smear him, said Lee Merritt, who represents the family of Botham Jean, who was shot dead in his own Dallas apartment on September 6th. Officer Amber Geiger, who shot him, said she mistook his apartment for her own and thought he was an intruder. A police affidavit shows that officers seized, among other items, 10.4 grams of marijuana and a marijuana grinder from Jean's apartment.
Oh, no.
So, I mean, what's the implication there?
Yeah.
That because
you smoke weed, you deserve to have your door kicked in by a cop and killed?
Yeah, I mean, is that the conclusion I'm supposed to reach? He's a guy who smokes weed in the privacy of his own home, so he deserves to be, intruded on and shot?
In fact, she broke into his home, so if he had shot and killed her, under the laws in Texas, he would have been in the right.
Yeah.
So let's say he was just a trigger-happy guy, and he heard someone threatening him and kicking his door in, or whatever happened, and he pulls out a gun and kills them, because they're trying to forcibly enter his home, and she did actually enter his house, so if he would have shot and killed her, legally,
she was still in fucking cop uniform. Keep that in mind. So,
and they decided not to treat.
And
it
he's
as
a black
shooting
dude.
Also,
so keep that in mind as well.
But with I'd also say the way the law is written, if you break into someone's home in most southern states, there's castle doctrine. You can kill them at that point when they're there. So I mean, it's crazy that she breaks into his house, breaking and entering, and then shoots and kills him, which is murder. Or manslaughter, I guess you can look at it that way, too.
She's being charged with manslaughter presently.
Manslaughter.
She remains free on $300,000
So
bond
it's just kind of a ridiculous thing. It's like, so she gets manslaughter. We don't know all the facts in the case, so maybe it was murder. How do we don't? I mean, they definitely ruled out that there was not any sort of other motive.
They're not charging her with murder at this time.
Consider the source of the investigation.
Right. I mean, this is being investigated by her pals.
Which is, quote-unquote, not a police shooting.
Yeah. And it's not even being investigated as a police shooting. It's being investigated as...
Seems like they were more concerned with whether this guy had some fucking weed in his house. Like, why was that even mentioned? Why is that even public knowledge that they found weed in this dude's house? This dude was literally murdered in his home by a bitch that thought she was in her own place.
It's the same reason why whenever a black dude is shot by the police, they try to find, like, the thuggiest picture of him possible. You know, here he is posing with a gun or something.
If the police shoot somebody, there needs to be a mechanism in place to investigate them independently, or a federal investigation.
Oh, this right here is screaming for a federal investigation.
In this, for
sure.
This is FBI.
Because I mean, how can
territory.
someone who's part of is basically part of the organization that's investigating also be how could those people claim to be totally unbiased? Like, oh, it's another cop.
Yeah,
We're not going to
guess
be
what?
biased.
Whenever an entity does a corporate entity or a social institution like this does an in-house investigation into systemic problems, they always find, oh, there are none.
Or it's one bad apple.
Yeah, it's a bad apple, or there's no systemic problem here. That's what an internal investigation always finds, because these organizations and institutions are looking to defend themselves
There's
against
no
that sort of
way.
thing. They're not looking to root
There's
out
no
evil
way you
within
can look
their
at the
own
track record
selves.
of police departments all across America and say it's a couple bad apples. It's a systemic problem.
I mean, I think that John Oliver, as much as I think that he's a fucking hack a lot of the time, he pointed out that the saying is not, it's just a few bad apples, so who cares? The saying is, a few bad apples ruin the bunch.
Yeah.
So, like, that's not even a good reference.
Yeah.
When even if, is every cop out there shooting people wantonly? Hell
no. Of
But
course not.
when they do, are they really held accountable for it? Not usually.
Only in the most extreme cases.
Not usually. Sometimes.
Only in the most
It just
extreme
doesn't make
cases.
any sense for co-workers that are encouraged to have as much camaraderie as cops are, to be expected to dispassionately and objectively investigate one of their own. That should just be standard procedure.
Yeah,
if something involving a cop should have some kind of dispassionate outside investigation. Because look, if her friends are looking at social media posts and find that these two fucked, and there was something else going on here, this might have been an argument about a hookup and whatever the fuck, like anything, that there was some other motive here, they just bury it. Just go, oh no, we never found anything like that, but we did find some weed in this dude's place, so big old pothead over there probably deserved to get drilled.
Probably deserved to get shot in the fucking head.
Yeah, people who smoke weed, just execute them.
You just can't expect that. So there needs to be a mechanism
I mean,
in place.
how's it not a smear? I mean, like, look, I'm not saying they're lying that they didn't find that shit, but what does it have to do with him being shot?
Yeah, he's fucking dead.
He's dead.
She wasn't there to investigate the scent of weed, per her own report. She thought she was walking in her own house.
Yeah, she wasn't there doing
So him having weed is completely irrelevant. Completely.
It is.
Deep Fat Fried. Deep Fat Fried.